All right, and we are live from the ether into your ethernet. This is the Zodcast, but we will be doing a little bit of Zodiac material, of course, because this is sort of a Zodiac primarily show. But I'll be talking about this potential serial killer loose in my hometown of Houston, Texas. So if y'all can't hear me, let me know. Still a new setup. I actually dropped my entire mixer on the ground right now. That's how you sign used to it. I'm just picking it up off the floor, hence that move. My entire mixer just fell on the ground. I'll blame that on my buddy who said that my audio wasn't good enough for him, so I had to upgrade. So hopefully you can hear the upgrade. Thank you, Patty. Hey, Jacob, good seeing you. Hey, Lee. Plate C, where you? I think I missed you last time. Horseback Falcon never misses. Nothing on Yuba County 5 I've heard, but Eduardo, if you jump on, I don't know what time it is. I did have COVID again for like the third time a week ago, so I still have COVID brain. That's at least my excuse. But if Eduardo jumps on, he might have some updates. I am in a private Yuba County 5 group with like the 5 people on the earth that know the case the best. So we share stuff, and I'm probably behind on reading that thread because if there's anything new on Yuba, it's going to be in this Yahoo Messenger group I'm in with, of course, Tony Wright, the author of Things Are Right, the Bible on the Yuba County 5 case. And Tony and I usually keep a lot of contact. So if something was really big breaking, they would probably make sure I saw it. Hey, Richard. But I wanted to talk to Big B Art, if you guys remember him popping on the live a few weeks ago, and I didn't know he was from Yuba City, so I put out there that it should be reopened. Actually, they left place card in the Yuba County 5 place to keep it open based on the possible potential of Gary Mathias's death being ruled a homicide. It was a note, and that's what the Mopac Audio podcast, that was a big reveal. That was, of course, hosted and written by Shannon McGarvey, our good friend in Austin, Texas. And that was the big reveal of the show, was that there was a note in the file that was, put in there years later after the Yuba County 5 went missing, that they were considering the disappearance of Gary Mathias as a possible, I think, foul play, because I don't know how they could say homicide, because, of course, they never found Gary's body. And most people believe that Gary just got further away and never was found, got buried in the snow. And then you had the bear fire up there in that area that it really devastated everywhere from like Berry Creek, where, of course, Mr. Shones lived, all the way up to Bucks Lake area. I think the bear fire was, I haven't been up there. A couple of my friends have, of course, and they know the area well. But I think 80% burned. So that would make it even harder to find someone's remains. And it was Gary's stepfathers believed that they would maybe find his glasses, because although Gary had started wearing contact lenses around that time, that I think he just wasn't totally used to them. So he was kind of flipping back and forth, I believe, in between his Coke bottle glasses. I mean, they're literally Coke. Of course, they called them Coke bottle because they look like the ends of the old glass Coke bottles. For us old people, we remember that. And, they're the real thick bottled glasses Gary wore because his eyesight was pretty bad. And I attributed that in my book to him falling out of the family car when I think they were going to church or something one morning. And Gary was playing with his siblings, I think his 2 sisters, and he fell out of the family car and hit his head really hard. He had to go to the hospital. He was there for at least a week. And he was pretty much blind for a whole week. It took a while for any vision to get restored to Gary. So that's one thing that his stepfather always believed might turn up, because, the animals up in the woods are not going to eat Coke bottle glasses. So that was one thing that would be interesting to turn up. But I mean, if I ever had the time, I'd love to get up there. It's a couple of my buddies have. One of my buddies mentioned going up there again with him. He's already been up to the area. And he went up to Bucks Lake and was asking people, have you ever heard of the Yuba County 5 case? And I remember him telling me that no one even knew what it was. I mean, he's literally at Bucks Lake, which is just miles from the Granite Basin Fire Base camp where the trailers were. and nobody knew about it. And he was like, man, this is weird. He's like, it happened right here. It's just famous on YouTube, but it's still outside of YouTube. And even after the Netflix show, it got a little more recognition. That was a really well done show. Tony was great in it, and the whole crew. Of course, some of the family members were in it that I know. And, it still didn't get that big hit that I was hoping for, kind of like the Dyatlov Pass incident, which is so famous. Of course, when the hikers went missing in the Ural Mountains in 1959, the group of Russian hikers, I don't remember how many there were, so bonus points to whoever can remember how many hikers there were. I want to say there was 8, but something's telling me 12. I don't know. I don't remember, but that reminds me of a little just housekeeping that I wanted to do, because I had a little just for fun. There was no prize other than a shout out if someone could name that picture I put up on the post page of where I was sitting in that particular photograph. And I don't know if y'all can see this off of my phone. That's the one where I'm sitting. I know it's there. You can kind of see it. I know it's not really centered here. I'll try to center it. It's weird. Everything I do, like right is left. It's like driving. It's like backing up a U-Haul when I'm doing this, actually. And I said the winner was going to be the first one to identify where I was sitting. And Bernard McGrain is the winner. He said Alcatraz. He nailed it. Somebody else said they thought it was Alcatraz, and then they said, to be honest, they cheated. That was Sepher. But anyway, Bernard, shout out to Bernard McGrain. You nailed it. You were the winner of the shout out. I don't know why I put this background in the back with that cow getting sucked up by the UFO. My StreamYard was all screwed up. You feel like that cow? How do you feel like the cow that's getting sucked up by the UFO? That's pretty funny. But Bernard, great job. You nailed it. I think the Yuba County 5 case should be very reopened. And I don't know the gentleman on here. If he's on here tonight, please make yourself known that has always been wanting me to jump into the Las Vegas Stephen Paddock case, because there's something going on there. Sorry. Stephen Paddock had help, and I'm with you on that plate C. MK Ultra is real. Call me conspiracy, whatever. I don't care anymore. MK Ultra is real. It's the real deal. It exists. They know how to use it, and I think Stephen Paddock was somewhat controlled to do what he did. I mean, this guy just didn't grow up, and then he wasn't really even a shooter. And the guy brought up to the hotel room. Where was that? Not Bellagio. I stayed at that hotel before in Vegas years and years ago that he shot out of. What was the name of it? Mandalay Bay. There comes my memory. Wow. COVID's wearing off. Shooting out of the Mandalay Bay. And I agree with you. I think Paddock was MK Ultra all the way. I don't know about Zodiac so much, but definitely Paddock. And that reminds me, there was somebody had a question. I thought, man, I can't answer this. I don't have the time to sit out write long excuses or long, not excuses, but explanations. But if I remember that somebody left a legit question in the under one of the videos, I would try to get to them on the show, because it would take a little more explanation than I could just type out, getting busy at work or whatever. I'm trying to find it now. Yeah, I'm call me Rusty. What was the live show? Okay, we did the show about, of course, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. That was a really good show, and appreciate my good friend with funding a lot of the material for that. Quentin Broom, I think you're in the lovely, lovely land of Ireland. I think you're in Ireland. I don't think you're in Northern Ireland. I think you're in the south part of Ireland. But Quentin writes, this was 11 days ago. Sorry to get back to you, man, because this was a little more that I could write out in the midst of having COVID and working at the same time. But he said, I was just thinking, Drew, about Don Chaney coming forward, because in 1971 or 1972, do you know if it was publicized? I don't know. That's a great question, Quentin. That's a darn good question. was it publicized that Don Chaney came forward, and it was actually July of 71 for those playing at home. But I would say no. I don't know that for sure, but I don't know why it would have been. I think they would have kept everything kind of hush hush because they were trying to build a case on Allen with Armstrong and Toschi through the San Francisco PD, and then they were going to try to make some contact with Vallejo PD and Napa PD and see if they could get some coalition going between the three jurisdictions, which famously in this case, it's believed that they never really did. And that was one of the reasons it never got solved, because the three municipalities that all had Zodiac crimes in them, Benicia, of course, with Lake Herman Road, Vallejo with Blue Rock, and Lake Berryessa with Napa, and then, of course, Paul Stein with San Francisco. But the ball got rolling when they were. It's interesting, though, that they decided to contact SFPD first when we had three other jurisdictions to deal with, because there was 4 canonical Zodiac crimes and 4 different jurisdictions. So each jurisdiction had one crime or it's one Zodiac attack. And so that's interesting. But I don't know if that was publicized. That's a great question, though. It's something that, Ross, maybe that's why I'm glad that there's guys out there like Ross Geraci, a good friend of mine, Dion, guys like that, Druzer, of course, Richard. Those guys are doing Zodiac a lot. Ross does other things too, because Ross knows so much about movies. He does a lot of movie reviews. I want to join one of those one day, Ross. If you do a movie I like, let's do Biloxi Blues or something. I know you guys just did Goodfellas. I think he just did a movie review on Goodfellas. I love Goodfellas. I would have loved to have been a part of that show, dude. Just talking about movies. I used to really be into movies, not so much anymore. But anyway, let me continue with Quentin. Came forward 1971. Do you know if it was publicized? His accusations to the public? ? Because I am firmly convinced that the Exorcist letter glyph is meant to read Lee, Leigh. Those are all those little bitty. One researcher for Allen calls them G glyphs, and if you put them all together, and I think our buddy's the one that originally noticed it. Those glyphs in the Zodiac Killer's Exorcist letter could be rearranged to make the name Lee, of course, for Lee Allen, Leigh. Y'all had to hear from Corky, because I think who's the one that claims that he came up with rearranging the pattern in the Exorcist letter to make it say Lee. Of course, he was early an Arthur Lee Allen fan before he changed horses. That's kind of common in some of these cases where these guys claim switch horses. But I would digress really quickly if I went into that. He says, because I am fairly convinced the Exorcist letter glyph, he said the right way, is meant to read Lee, L-E, capital L-E, lowercase I-G, capital H. So either Don was correct in that Lee sent in this letter, or a better possibility, the real Zodiac heard about Lee in the news, the accusations, and so the real Z feigned the Lee characterization of the Zodiac in the letter, which was in 1974. That's true. It's a pretty easy to decipher the glyph, and Zodiac is usually not so easily figured out in clues. That's true. Or it's also possible that Don went with him in commission of Lake Herman Road. I've always considered that a possibility, that Don and Lee were together at Lake Herman Road. I'm not 100% on that, and that's just something we will never know, unfortunately. We will never know. We won't even ever really know for 100% that Lake Herman Road was indeed Zodiac. I lean towards that it is, of course, like the police did at the time. But there's, of course, as we know, there's not even any concrete evidence tying any 2 canonical crimes together, not even the fingerprints from Paul Stein's cab, which are partials matching up with the Napa phone booth fingerprints. Blue Rock Springs, of course, was like Berryessa, only in the terms of there was a phone call made right after the commission of the crime. Just like the cab driver Ray Davis. That's why I think Ray Davis is a distinct possibility for being Zodiac for a lot of reasons, even though I believe he was pretty clear that he said that Lake Herman Road started his collecting of slaves for the afterlife. This is what Zodiac said. But it's really important to know, I like where you're going with that, Quentin, is what was known at the time. Like how common was it known? Even in Spinelli comes forward, and I believe 91, and how well known was it that Alan was being looked at? Because of course, when Gray Smith writes the book, it's being talked about a lot, and then when the movie comes out, it's really being talked about. And the movie was 2006, I believe, and the book was 86. It's hard to believe the book is that old. Of course, Gray Smith spent 5 years writing that book, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know. I mean, that's a great question, though. I'd love to know the answer to it. But going back to the theme of this show, let me see how this works. I'm a little rusty, of course. Call me Rusty. A serial killer maybe being loose in my fair city where I was born and raised. I live a little outside of the city now, thank God, because it's gotten so bad. Houston's like Memphis, and I know Memphis, Tennessee gets a bad rap, but I've spent quite a bit of time in Memphis, Tennessee. Not just going to Graceland because I'm an Elvis fan, of course, never shy away from that fact. But I used to manage retail shopping centers in Memphis, Tennessee. If anybody here lives in Memphis or is familiar with the city of Memphis, the street called Fraser Street, very long, and that's on the more west side of Memphis. It's not West Memphis. That's, of course, in Arkansas where those boys were murdered, the West Memphis 3 case. That's just over the state line, which isn't far from Memphis, Tennessee, of course. That's why they call it West Memphis. But that's actually a small town in Arkansas, not far away. But Fraser Street is in Memphis, Memphis, the city itself in Tennessee. And it's, even back then when I had to go there and manage property there, which was like quarterly visits out of Houston, it was very violent. I had a guy working for me, and, this part of Memphis is, predominantly black. And I had a guy working for me, that kind of looked after the center, and he's a black gentleman, and he's big. He is a huge ex-linebacker in high school. He played some junior college football. He's 6'4", probably weighed 300 pounds. I mean, his arms were like tree trunks. And I remember the dude telling me, you don't want to be caught out here. He said for himself, he did never, ever want to get caught out there at night or he'd be dead. And I was like horrified. Here I am, this little white boy, 5'7", I could handle my own for that guy, for my own, anybody around my size maybe, but man, this dude was big, and he said, I ain't going near this place at night. And he's a local, born and raised Memphis, Tennessee. So I'm digressing, but anyway, Houston's gotten really bad. Homeless everywhere, crime everywhere. There's people. I saw a guy just 3 days ago walking down the street in Houston, just screaming at the top of his lungs for no apparent reason. He's like, ah, ah. It was like he was being stabbed or something. He wasn't. He was just walking down a sidewalk in a pretty populated part of town. He's just screaming for no apparent reason. That's just Houston now, man. I mean, it's just gotten terrible. It's the crime in the city is literally off the chain. So, I mean, another quick one is another shopping center we own is just in an area that used to be decent, not far from my high school. And I'm out there with my buddy doing, a little work on the place. And this guy, there's a bus stop there, which always makes things worse. I'm not knocking public transportation, but the one here in Houston is terrible. It's called Metro Bus. We don't have a light rail. Well, we do have a light rail, but no one ever really uses it. It's a light rail to nowhere, and everybody gets their car hit by it. But yeah, there's a light rail that goes up and down by University of Houston, which we'll get into that a little bit because it'll tie into this possible serial killer being loose in Houston and the possibility of that. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and you can tar and feather me if I'm wrong. I'm convinced that there's a serial killer loose in Houston, Texas. Totally. And the experts will claim there isn't. And this expert that's from this fair town is going to tell you there is. I don't know who it is, but I can tell you the pattern going on now, that this is absolutely not normal, even for here. And as violent as this city has gotten, there is a serial killer on the loose in Houston, and the bodies are getting dumped in the various bayous that run through downtown Houston. This one, this was recently, they found a body in Buffalo Bayou. Buffalo Bayou is the main bayou that goes through downtown Houston. I'd love to go to an Elvis festival. I never would miss one. Anyway, let's see. Let me check the other slide. See if there's a map here. Okay. You have White Oak Bayou coming up here. Of course, this middle part is downtown where it says Monday, Texas Spur 5. That's a little more south of downtown Houston. Here's the East Freeway. That's I-10 for people playing at home. Right here, White Oak Drive is right off the White Oak Bayou. So you got 4 locations right here that they found bodies in. And some of the experts are claiming, and I'll read this, that they don't think it's a serial killer because the victims have been male and female. And they think that a serial killer, they would all be male or female. Well, let's go back to Zodiac. Obviously, Zodiac had male and female victims. Of course, the 2 survivors were male, Mike and Brian, but he was attacking both male and female. So I don't know why they're on their high horse of thinking that this can't be a serial killer because the victims are different sexes. Now, I know the one before last they found was an African-American lady who had gone to a restaurant to eat by herself near the University of Houston campus. And she was, they found her body, I think the next day, only about 3 miles away from where the restaurant was. I guarantee you somebody picked her up leaving that restaurant. Maybe they were known to her or not, but I think this is a serial killer. I just do. And there's a lot of people that believe that there was a serial killer in Austin, Texas, that they were finding a lot of bodies in Lake LB. No, I think it was Lake LBJ, where a lot of bodies were turning up in Austin, Texas, and they think maybe this individual had moved his way down to Houston, and maybe that's a possibility because the bodies were turning up in the water. But this says, I'm trying to figure out the date. This is the one that came with that map, published September 20th. So that's just yesterday, published in the morning. It says Houston Police Department, 5th body pulled from Houston bayous this week. 5th body, 5 in a week. And they want to say this isn't a serial killer? I mean, this is a big city, but come on. And I know the bayous could be good dumping grounds because the water is going to wash away a lot of the DNA if there was any blunt force trauma, but they're not releasing a lot of details yet. But 5 bodies in a week? That's insane. It says Houston police are investigating after a body was recovered from Buffalo Bayou. You can see that on the map. I think Buffalo. No, it didn't make the map, but it should have. Buffalo Bayou Saturday morning, and that's near downtown, right near downtown Houston. You can see the bayou coming through downtown where all the buildings are. The latest in a string of similar discoveries. Investigators said the first call came in just before 8:30 a.m. in the area of Hirsch Road, but nothing was found at the location. A second call came in later, this time reporting a body in the water near North York Street in Houston's 2nd Ward. HPD's dive team responded and recovered the body. The medical examiner's office will determine the cause of death. This marks at least remember those words. This marks at least the 5th body pulled from the area waterways in less than a week, according to information confirmed by HPD. Monday, 2 bodies were recovered. One was identified as a missing University of Houston student, my alma mater, found in Brays Bayou. The other was recovered from a canal near 400 East Street. That's the one right over here where it says East Freeway. That's where they found this other body. At Greens Bayou, that's going to be more north. Greens Bayou is more north, so it's a little further away. A body was pulled from White Oak Bayou near 2200 White Oak Drive. That's right there where it says Tuesday, White Oak Drive. After a witness spotted it, the cause of death is still pending, so we don't know. These so-called experts are coming out saying, "Oh no, it's not a serial killer. Go back to sleep. Just go worry about the other crime in Houston, which is rampant." Thursday, witnesses reported seeing someone jump into Buffalo Bayou near Jensen Drive and Navigation Boulevard and never resurfaced. Now, that's really odd. That might not have anything to do with anything. Maybe they just lost their mind or have doing the fentanyl dance. The case has been ruled a drowning. Authorities have not released the identity of the person recovered Saturday. This is a developing story. Of course it is. This is going to be more on the female they found. African-American female. Body of missing U of H student found in Brays Bayou. Houston police confirm. Jade Sage McKissick. It's Kissic McKissick. I hope I'm getting that right. 20 years old. Had been missing since September 10th. So she was gone for a while before they found her remains, according to the Houston Police Department. University of Houston student who had been missing since last week was found dead, according to the Houston Police Department. The body of Jade, she went by Sage, S-A-G-E, McKissick, was pulled from the Brays Bayou near Spur 5 South on the afternoon of Monday, September 15th. The scene is less than a mile from the U of H campus. I think somebody intercepted that girl. I just do. I mean, going to college there, I know the area. That's just my gut feeling. The 20-year-old U of H junior had been missing since September 11th. She was last seen leaving L.A. Burgers and Daiquiris on North McGregor Way near Scott Street in the 3rd Ward. Friends told police that they had been partying at local bars and McKissick left alone without her cell phone. I mean, because it could be like that kid that went missing in Nashville, where he just got so intoxicated. And, that looked like foul play was involved. But after everything got sorted out, I think he was just way drunk, and I think he said something inappropriate to one of the waitresses, and he got tossed out in short order. And, the tragedy there with the gentleman that went missing in Nashville was his buddies didn't look out for him. And that could be the same here with Miss McKissick. Surveillance video shows McKissick going to a gas station next door to buy a drink and then walking towards Brays Bayou. So she's alone at this point. Police said her body was found 2.5 miles from where she was last seen. They said there was no signs of trauma or foul play. I mean, she could have been held under and drowned. An autopsy is being done to determine McKissick's cause of death, and I'll update it when I find out on here. The relative said McKissick, whose nickname was Sage, had always been a great student who was involved in church and school groups. This is a good person, This isn't some alky drug user, She was going to college and a good person. According to a Facebook post, McKissick worked as a desk assistant on campus, worked for the university, and was part of the student orientation team. U of H releases statement on death of Jade McKissick. U of H Vice President of Student Affairs, Paul Kittle, sent the following statement to students on Thursday. It's with profound sadness that we share the recent passing of one of our students, Jade Sage McKissick, was a campus resident and student employee and a friend of many in our community. Let me go back. I thought I had a picture of Jade. No, I don't see it. There's our famous. I'll leave the map back up. Pretty girl, really tragic. At this time, we do not have details surrounding her death. We understand that it occurred off campus. They always want to protect that liability, Cougs, and is currently under investigation by the Houston Police Department. We are awaiting further information. We recognize that this loss may be felt deeply across our campus. Please know that support is available. Cougs Care has information on all available resources, including blah, 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 blah. We have extended our condolences and support to the family as they navigate this unimaginable loss. In times of grief, leaning on one another can make a meaningful difference. Please take care of yourselves and each other and reach out if you need support. I'm not buying it, man. There's something going on that doesn't make sense. It's too many bodies. It's too many bodies in too short a time. Houston police are investigating after a body was recovered Buffalo Bayou this morning, laced in a string of similar discoveries. Investigators said the first call came in at 8:30 on Hirsch. Second call came in later. Still have not discovered the cause of death. Anyway, I think this is, U of H is in a bad part of town. It really is. But the problem with Houston is it's all a bad part of town now. It really is. I mean, I'm from here. I can say that. Houston is dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. I had a guy approach me that wanted to do me severe bodily harm, but there's a lot of Texans. I have protection in my pocket, and we quickly settled that agreement. And he surrendered, as we say. He did not want to come at me anymore. I just told him to speak up to the microphone, if you know what I mean. And this guy just wanted to got mad at me for looking at him, is what he said. He said, F you for looking at me. And I'm like, bro, you're on my property. Get off. You're trespassing, but I wasn't even looking at you. But you want to come beat me up just for I'm looking at you? Speak up right here. I don't think you're going to do anything to me because I'm pretty sure this thing is chambered. Just saying. I would not go into a lot of parts of Houston without a pistol on me. I'm just being real. You got to be protected out there because these guys are unhinged. They go around screaming, yelling. I don't know if they're on fentanyl or what, but there's homeless everywhere, and the homeless have gotten so violent. They didn't used to be. They used to be really kind of docile. You give them a few bucks, and they'd go wherever, and you could say, "Hey, can you just move?" I know go get help or whatever, but the police don't really do anything. You can trespass them, but the cops aren't even getting murder solved. They don't care about 2 or 3 homeless guys huddled up in a corner of their property you own. They don't really care. So what you do is just give these guys a few bucks and hopefully they cooperate. But now they want to fight you. They just want to fight you. If you say a word to them, they're up in arms and want to take you all the way down. I mean, they're violent now. It's really scary. Now, I don't know if this is the serial killer, if there is a serial killer in Houston, if he's homeless or not, I don't know. It doesn't matter. The whole thing is we got to catch this guy because this is not one-offs, just bodies getting dumped in bayous when there's been that many in this short period of time. This is just because they don't want people to start freaking out that there's a serial killer here. And they're really, when you think about the history of the city, which I know well, there hasn't been a well-known serial killer since the Candyman, Dean Coral, who was abducting little boys and killing them. They were around, anywhere from 12 to 15 years old was his target range, and he would sexually molest them and kill them afterwards. He actually tortured them terribly. There's several books about him, and he would take them to I think it was on Long Point Road where he had something kind of like a boat storage, but it was like these storage unit type things back in the 70s is when this happened, the early 70s. And they had dirt floors in them, and he would literally dig, the graves of these young boys and bury them in there, throw the lime in so it wouldn't smell or whatever, decompose too quickly. Kind of like the mafia does when they bury bodies, they use lime, and he kind of did that, packed them all in. Eventually he meets his demise because he moves down to Pasadena, Texas, or he's down there for some reason. I mean, because this all happens in the Heights area, which is near White Oak Bayou. If you remember the map I had up, that's called the Heights area of Houston, just directly out of downtown. I mean, the Heights is just due north, west of downtown Houston, maybe, half a mile right there. But then he relocates further south down to Pasadena, Texas, and he's at a party. And one of the guys that was I think it was Elmer Wayne Hensley, was one of his kind of henchmen, so to speak, who was a younger boy that kind of helped him cover up the murders. And it eventually goes to prison. And he's still in prison, I believe, unless he died recently with those murders. But he's the only serial killer that you really think of when you think of Houston. And I think he killed a lot of people. Dean Coral did. And he is not talked about a lot, but he's the only famous serial killer from the area. So it'd be very rare to have a serial killer in Houston, but I think we've got one. I do. This is not normal to have this many bodies turning up, and even in the bayous. There's plenty of other places you can dump a body in a city this big. Why are they all going in the water? It's smart to dump a body in the water because it degrades the DNA. That's for sure. I think that's why you could never get good DNA from the case I mentioned earlier, the West Memphis 3 case. Because those little boys were found in the ditch and the DNA had really degraded. That's why, who was it? Damien Eccles, of course, he was, really pushing hard for DNA testing and to exonerate him and his 2 friends, Jesse Miss Kelly. I forget the name of the other one, Baldwin. Baldwin was his last name. Miss Kelly, Baldwin, and of course, the Eccles were the West Memphis 3. But that case probably would have had good DNA if the boys weren't found in a ditch where they were tied up, I think, with some of their shoelaces that the little boys were wearing that were killed in that case. And it's really hard to get DNA from, bodies that have been laying in a muddy creek for days. It's obvious that, the Candyman was his nickname. His name was Dean Coral, I think there's 2 L's. C-O-R. I don't know. Look it up, Patty. I'm a terrible speller. C-O-R-E-L-L, Coral, like Coral Reef, but it's 2 L's. Coral, Dean Coral. His nickname was the Candyman. And it was because his parents had owned like a candy store. and he had access to the store, and he'd buy for the store, and that's hence the name. That's how he got the nickname the Candyman. But for now, this unapprehended maybe serial killer is of course being called the Bayou City Butcher. I didn't come up with that. Somebody else did that I saw that had just made a comment on it. I don't know if they came up with the name or that's what's being kicked around, but for now it's sticking as the Bayou City Butcher, who's doing these recent murders, and they're finding out that they're just being dumped in the water. But there's tons of other water are in and around the Houston area. Of course, there's a Lake Houston. There's plenty of other bayous. Buffalo Bayou goes all the way out to Highway 6, if you know the city's terrain here, which is very long. There's outlets of Buffalo Bayou which get full with water, especially after rains. There's millions of places to discard a body out here. I mean, it's land everywhere. I mean, there's people everywhere, but there's land everywhere. So I just think there's a tie-in. I don't care that the victims are not all of the same sex. It does not make them not a serial killer because the victims are two different sexes. That means nothing. I mean, the person's just probably out to kill. Oh, really? The homeless are getting violent in Canada? What part of Canada are you in? I forgot. Are you in Vancouver? BC? I thought you were in BC. Yeah, he used to give the kids sweets. Yes. Absolutely. That's where it comes from. That was one of the way you would lure them. But I mean, they were little boys. I mean, they weren't like 7-year-olds. I think they were more like 11, 12, 13, early teens, 11, 12, early teens. The serial killer could be bisexual, likes both sides of the fence. Absolutely. Good comment. Yeah, the Dean Coral case, I mean, it's strange no one's ever made a movie about it that I know of, but man, this guy was just a sick, sadistic demon from hell. Oh, Vancouver and Calgary. Okay. Where did you grow up, Vancouver or Calgary? I know Calgary in its own way is no, I'm thinking of Edmonton. Edmonton is kind of like a lot like Houston minus the heat. It's got a rodeo, I think. I think Edmonton, of course, they have the Oilers, the hockey team, Edmonton Oilers NHL team. And we tried to get that NHL team here in Houston, legitimately tried to get them here in Houston. We were going to keep the name because our old football team was, of course, called the Houston Oilers, which moved and now are the Tennessee Titans. But we were trying to get the Edmonton Oilers down here. Of course, people of Edmonton said, hell no. Of course, that's where the great one played, Gretzky, before he got traded to LA Kings. I think he retired as a LA King. I'm sure they retired his jersey in Edmonton, but Edmonton is rough, really. It looks like a nice town. I used to know a girl from Edmonton. I think they have a rodeo there, and I think there's a lot of oil, like it's a kind of an oil town like Houston is, from what I recall. Hey, Jacob. Yes. If Solaris says MK Ultra is real, then it's real. And you know who else said MK Ultra was real? Is Roseanne Barr. Be a fan of hers or not. She was at the top of her game, top rated TV show on TV, the Roseanne Show. She said plainly their MK Ultra exists in Hollywood. I mean, make no bones about it. Roseanne said, hell yeah, it exists. And here's somebody who has nothing to gain from that. She's not selling some conspiracy book. She's got plenty of money, had a top show on TV in Hollywood, said MK Ultra is alive and well in Hollywood. You can't beat that for credibility. Roseanne, this is, she's not looking for attention. I mean, maybe she is, but it isn't that way. And she says MK Ultra is a real deal. And I know Plate C agrees. Yeah, I know Canada's getting kind of out of control. The C, what's the CN mean? I forgot you were in Canada too, Richard. You're in Toronto. Big problem with homelessness there and in other cities. I'm guessing in Toronto the cops aren't doing anything, just like the ones here. They do nothing. They could care less. People do not give Roseanne enough credit. Agreed. Canadian National. Okay. It's Canadian National Railroad. Now I know. I like being educated on that. The world has become unhinged. The world's beyond unhinged. It's so bad. I can't even describe how bad it is, because I deal with not the public, but I deal with a lot of clients and tenants and people like that, and they're just literally losing their minds. I mean, people that used to be really nice are like really quippy and short, kind of like me. And they're just like, man, it's just everybody has a hair trigger now. Yes, Ladybird Lake. That's where they found the bodies. Yes. That's what I meant to say. If I said LBJ, I was wrong. It's Ladybird. Of course, you think of Ladybird when you think of LBJ, but you're right. It's Ladybird Lake where they were finding all the bodies, and some people have proposed that. I don't know what the years that they were finding all the bodies. They found a lot of bodies in Ladybird Lake over the past 20 years, I believe, and of course, I've been there, but some people have thrown out there that this could be whoever was doing that. But to my knowledge, I think all the majority of the bodies found in Ladybird Lake were male, for whatever that's worth. We need another Elvis festival. There's not enough. Man, I mean, the debt crisis has been looming forever, and I think lowering interest rates isn't going to help it any. It's just going to put more houses on the market. I think the housing market will crash before, all the credit unwinds, and then maybe the dollar collapses. I'm with you. You're a conspiracy guy, man. I like that. And believe me, I'm conspiracy too. I don't see a whole lot of it in Zodiac. DB Cooper is loaded with conspiracy. Of course, I got the conspiracy suspect, which, I take a lot of crap for, but whatever. I don't really plug it. Go like who you like, but I like the conspiracy suspect in this case, because I know that CIA doesn't miss a whole lot, especially back in 1971. There ain't much getting by the CIA in 71. They had so many resources on the ground, so many contacts, and you're going to tell me that some hijacker steals $200,000 and they don't know who it is? Come on. That's ridiculous. They knew exactly who did it. The only unsolved American hijacking. Oh, one guy managed to beat him out of, all the copycats and everything. They caught every one of them in short order, including Richard Floyd, Idiot McCoy. And you're going to tell me that Cooper got away and he's the only one we don't know. Duh. Trust me, they know who DB Cooper is. I don't know what Tom O'Neill's book talked about. I knew I did do one show that I kind of regret. It was with a psychic who really believed it was Don Chaney, and just said that he was into the occult, because there was a lot of occult type happenings happening around Bakersfield. And there's actually a tie to the John Benet Ramsey case with Fleet White Sr. Now, of course, Fleet White Jr. was good friends with John Ramsey. And they had famously gotten a big fight the day of John Benet's funeral in Atlanta. Of course, Ramsey's come from Atlanta before they moved to Boulder, and he gets set up with Access Graphics, funded by his father-in-law, Don Paul. I can't believe I never did a John Bonet show, because I knew the case so well back 10 years ago, maybe 15 years. I just knew everything about it, and you know what my conclusions are. But anyway, Fleet White Sr. Lived for a long time. He had a lot of money. I don't really remember how he made it, but he had a house in Aspen, Colorado, and there ain't any cheap houses in Aspen, Colorado. That's where the rich folk are. My uncle has a $20 million house in Aspen. And Fleet had one, and probably on Draw Drive, like just one of the nicer drives in a neighborhood in Aspen, Colorado. But Fleet somehow, before he gets to Aspen or wherever time of his, this is senior, had ties to Bakersfield. And there was an incident that was reported, I don't know if it's true or not, of him trying to, mind control or with kids and sexual stuff and bad things that people can't even believe exist. And that's just a strange story that had some meat behind it that it happens to be his son, who's Fleet White Jr., winds up being good friends with John Ramsey, and they get in this massive fight hours before John Bonet's funeral. I mean, you're about to lay your little daughter to rest, and you're getting in a horrible verbal argument with one of your best friends before the funeral. That's just like, man, if y'all were like just, of course it had to do with going forward to the police and all that. And famously, John and Patsy got separate lawyers, which everybody thought was odd at the time. But one of the things that sticks out to me in the whole John Bonet case is the fact that Fleet White Jr. and John Ramsey got such a big, it wasn't, I don't think it was physical, but it was verbal yelling stuff. But to happen right before your daughter's funeral is really strange. I'll just say, what were they arguing about? What did Fleet White Jr. know? And I mean, he really acted, Fleet White Jr. acted just as strange as John Ramsey after the whole John Bonet deal. Like, he was really feeling the heat, denied being connected to it at all. There's nothing connecting him to him. I'm not saying he had anything to do with John Bonet's murder, but the fight that happened between him and John, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. That's all I'm saying. John Bonet's really creepy. That's why I can't really dive into it anymore. It's, especially having a daughter of my own, I just can't even, it's just one I can't process. I really can't. A book called Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. That'd be a really good book. I wonder if Ned's covered that, because, Ned's really into that stuff. Ned DeHaan, of course, our good friend. Ned is really into that whole CIA connection and Manson, and was Manson being controlled with MK Ultra or the CIA? That's really where Ned comes from, that whole world. And that's, what he based his fiction books on a lot, is some of that conspiracy and tying into Zodiac. I know Ross Geraci, my friend, is always like kind of the Church of Satan angle on Zodiac, which could come into play. So I think that DC was part of the MK Ultra conspiracy along with Sandy. Sandy's an interesting guy. And I know Ross was reading Shooting Zodiac by Robert Graysmith. And of course, and he was sharing some parts of it, because I haven't read the entire book. I should, of course, just finding the time. But he was sharing some stuff that was interesting to him. And I said, well, from what I've read, the most interesting part of that entire book by Graysmith, and he didn't do that well. He didn't sell that many copies. It was almost strange he even did it. Maybe he thought it would do better than it did. He's already got a lot of money from when they made Zodiac into a film, when Fincher made it into a film. But the strangest thing to me, and everybody knows about Zodiac, is when Chaney, they're making the movie and they're trying to decide if they want to do it or not. And Fincher has a lot of reservations, and those reservations were Don Chaney's story. That's Fincher almost was like, I don't know about doing this, because I'm not quite sure if I believe this Chaney guy. And of course, famously, he winds up doing it. Of course, the movie gets made, right? And it's some point to where they set up this meeting where Chaney's going to get reunited with his old buddy, Sandy Panzarella. And Chaney walks into the room, and Sandy immediately recognizes Don. And that's when Sandy Panzarella probably already had early, what do you call it? Whatever that disease is. He had Parkinson's, sorry. He has Parkinson's. That's why he sounds so monotone, and his name is Arthur Lee Allen. You stick a knife in the table and it really scare you. He talks like that not because of a stroke. It's because Parkinson's is affecting his speech. And eventually he dies of Parkinson's. But he was probably already in pretty good throes of Parkinson's when they filmed that. I really wish they had, it's kind of one of those, half and half decisions. If you do that they at least put a little thing on the bottom, said, Mr. Panzarella speaks slowly because he has Parkinson's disease. That would have cleared up a lot, because people watch that thinking, oh, he sounds like the killer. Brian described it, Berryessa, it was real monotone or whatever. Give me a break. The dude had Parkinson's. I know for a fact that when Panzarella was young, he had a loud, booming voice, unquote, from his daughter. Okay. So he didn't sound like he did, and his name was Arthur Lee Allen. He does that because he's got Parkinson's, and they should have probably said that just so people didn't think, what's wrong with this guy? No, it was not a stroke. It was Parkinson's disease. But anyway, Panzarella's an interesting guy. and it, of course, very financially successful. Coming up, he invented computerized medical billing on his own. Well, not really. He had two other partners, but he was the main driver and the brainchild of it, of his company. And he thought that would probably bode well in the future to be able to do computerized medical billing. That didn't go anywhere, did it? I mean, this is in the early 60s. He's thinking about computerized medical billing. I mean, he's a smart cookie. Panzarella is a smart guy, any way you look at it. But he's a weird guy. He's into some pretty weird stuff. But he had very low self-esteem, which I don't understand. Good looking guy, all the money and success in the world, but he had very, very low self-esteem. I don't know why. I just know that about him, which a lot of people don't know, but I do, because I'm fascinated by Panzarella. And I'm also fascinated by the fact that he used to talk to Robert Stack of Unsolved Mysteries for hours about the Zodiac case. Man, what I'd give to be a fly on the wall to hear the great Robert Stack. And I love Robert Stack, of course. That's my favorite TV show ever created. And I know Patty agrees. The best show ever put on television is called Unsolved Mysteries, and which started a lot of this stuff. We talk about D.B. Cooper. They never did a Zodiac show, though. They should have. I wish they did. They didn't. To my knowledge, they never did a Zodiac show. I think they repackaged Cooper and did it twice. Of course, they did Roswell, and the head producer for that show was a friend of my cousin's. I got to meet and talk about that show for hours, about what he experienced when they filmed the surviving people that were still around when the UFO crashed at Roswell, New Mexico. Sam Lucchese was the producer of that show for Unsolved Mysteries, and I think he did like 10 shows for Unsolved, but one of them was Roswell, which is the top Unsolved Mystery show of all time, was the Roswell, because it was so well done. It was, the recreations were good. They were a tiny bit cheesy for our standards today, but back in the day, they were good. They had a good big budget and the show was doing well. So they didn't hold back any. And, famously, Sam told me, I was sitting on a couch at his house in Los Angeles, and I was really into UFOs. So maybe this wasn't an accident. I put it with this cow getting sucked up by the UFO, Strange Harvest, Linda Moulton House stuff. And he said, before I did that show for Unsolved Mysteries, I would have told you the existence of aliens was ridiculous. Like, I would have laughed at you if you believed in it. He said, after I did that show and I set up those interviews and did all the props and basically orchestrated the whole episode. He said, I talked to people like Jesse Marcel Jr. and the lady that was at the morgue after the bodies, because there was two impact sites, one crash site that had the three bodies. Man, I'd love to have Don Schmidt on the show. He's the world's foremost expert at the UFO crash at Roswell. Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to reach out to Don Schmidt. If you're watching, Don, reach out, man. I'm going to have you on, talk some Roswell. But anyway, Sam said, after I did that show, I'm a believer. He just said, I'm a full believer. An alien craft crashed at Roswell. I talked to the people. I met them. They're sincere. Everything they said was sincere. All their stories lined up. It was just, I believe it, and he said, before it, I'd have laughed at you if you believed in aliens. And he goes, after that show, I'm a believer. I mean, it totally did a 180 after he produced that segment for Unsolved. And Sergio was great. Of course, the A-Team is awesome. Perry Mason is great. What's the other one, too? Of course, Alfred Hitchcock, we mentioned a couple weeks ago, is great. Columbo, the great Peter Falk. Man, TV, why was TV shows so much better back then? They're terrible now. TV shows, I mean, like Law and Order SVU is okay and some stuff like that. I know my buddy liked the show Blue Bloods. Wahlberg is in it. Really good show. But compared to today's TV shows, compared to even 20 years ago, are pathetic. They're pathetic. Hill Street Blues was good. I liked Hill Street Blues. I did watch that. I don't remember Emergency, but I remember, of course, Hill Street Blues had that the theme was so depressing, man. Dragnet was great. But I did watch I did watch, I'd say, most of the Hill Street Blues. I really did. I liked it. Of course, the only series the last series I watched all of was Band of Brothers. So that's how far back I go. Aging myself. I haven't seen Cat Daddy. I hope he isn't mad at me. I didn't say anything bad, I hope. Me run my mouth? Never. No, I like Cat Daddy. He's a cool guy. He's a cool cat. He's carefree and wild. He's got cat class and he's got cat style. Mike Post wrote that. I know Mike posted a lot. Mike posted a lot of theme music for TV shows. My best friend growing up was Jason Post, so I always think of him when I hear that name, Post. But Mike posted a lot. I hope Darnell is okay. I'll reach out. Darnell stopped by like 3 weeks ago, I think. So if you if I did a straight up Zodcast, Darnell might have made it. But Darnell's out there. He's retooling the Darnell Week show. Of course, he's really into Halloween, the movie, and all that. But Darnell's okay. Yeah, he's retooling the Darnell Week show on YouTube. So check that out. Yeah, I used to watch Hardcastle McCormick as well. And of course, what show are we missing? I'll give Patty one guess. Starts with an H. Not Hardcastle because you just named it. But around that time. Oh, X-Files was great. I watched most of the X-Files in the beginning. That was really good. They got a little weird, but they were good. And then Project Blue Book was great, of course. Project Blue Book was awesome because it was real UFO stories. And well done. Well, the recreations of the big UFOs. I mean, the people getting sucked up in them, kind of like this cow. The cattle mutilation stuff is really one of the best places you can go to see if there's any existence of that, when they find the mutilated cattle on the ground and all their insides have been removed. Heart to heart, Lee nails it. Heart to heart, nails it. Hawaii 5-0, Lee beat you. It's heart to heart. What was the name of the dog? And heart to heart. Man, I'm old. Y'all are old. We're old. We're old folks. We are old folks. Let me get my daughter to calm down. We are old. Freeway was the name of the dog. Freeway. I didn't miss a heart to heart. I used to watch all of them. I watched a little bit of Knots Landing too. I'm not gonna lie. Of course, I like Dallas too, but wasn't Knots Landing a spinoff of Dallas? Linda Moulton Howe did a lot. Linda Moulton Howe did first. I thought it was called The Strange Harvest was the first book that Linda did on the cattle mutilations. Of course, Linda was working for a TV station. Of course, she's a former Miss, oh God, what state was it from? She won, the beauty contest from her particular state. I want to say Miss West Virginia, but then I'm crossing into John Bonet because, of course, Patsy and her sister were both Miss West Virginia, which makes you wonder. Because Daddy was a Freemason. There you go. Play. Say you want to get a conspiracy. He was Don Paul was a 32nd degree, maybe 33rd degree Freemason. And most Freemasons, if you want to put it on your tombstone after you die, you put the universal symbol of Freemasonry, which is what? A square and compass. But that wasn't good enough for old Don. He had a double-headed eagle. That's really meaning you're high up in Freemasonry when you're going to put a doubled eagle on your grave. Not a Christian cross. You put a double-headed eagle. And now it's really faded. Like it's almost like they don't want you to know he had it. But trust me, I've got the original photographs. On that man's gravestone, he's got a double-headed eagle, which I think there's a slight difference between a 32nd degree Freemasonry double-headed eagle and a 33rd degree. I think there's a slight difference in the Scottish Rite. Of course, there's two rites of Freemasonry: York Rite, Scottish Rite. It's all coming back. Night Stalker, yes, Night Stalker was good. Magnum was good. Magnum was great. Loved it. Night Gallery was great. Yes, loved Night Gallery. Heck yeah. The car phone was I forgot about the car phone. Totally forgot about the car phone. But yeah, you got beaten. How'd you get beat on that, Patty? You got beat to heart to heart. I loved heart to heart. You want Mopar and Toyota? Yeah, I forgot you did something with cars. Chevy, Mopar, Toyota symbols on my grave. Hell, I love Toyotas, but I can't afford one. Not now. totaled my Toyota not long ago and got a brand new Dodge Ram, but I can't afford it. I love Tundras. I love Tacomas. Tacoma's my favorite truck. That's what I had. Had 300,000 miles on my Tacoma and turned it into a box of metal. Got good money for it because they hold their value so well. Bought it brand new. Bought the Tacoma brand new. Man, they hold their value better. The Toyota Tacoma holds its value better than any car made right now. But the problem is Toyota's figured this out. And if you buy a new Tacoma or a new Tundra, you're going to fork out that the greenies. Wow. You got me beat. You know, I had 300 on mine when I wrecked it. 400. That's amazing. You know what? On my 300,000, mine it hit 300 when I wrecked it. And no, I didn't hit anybody. I hit a brick barricade that was in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the day. So my friend can laugh at me. But I couldn't find any other 300,000 mile Tacomas to even compare it to value wise when I totaled it for insurance. But 400 is good. And I will say this: I never changed the transmission fluid in it once, and it never slipped at all. My buddy, who's a ASC certified mechanic, said, "Man, there ain't no way." He goes, "In another 20,000 miles, that trans would have been slipping." And they tell you if you go past a certain point to change your transmission fluid, not to touch it, like even like a Jiffy Lube, because it builds up a certain coating if you don't change it, like the metals or whatever inside your transmission case, whatever they call it. I'm sure you know more than I do, but it kind of protects itself. So they highly suggest don't mess with it if you miss the mark on getting the transmission fluid flushed and changed, not to mess with it, because if you can drain out that protection layer and they put the new stuff in and your transmission's shot. So of course, Space 1999. How are you going to miss that? Great Martin Landau. Eat, Sleep, and Drink. Space 99. Of course, a little younger. I love Speed Racer, but Space 1999 was my show. I was never really into Doctor Who, but good God, I love Space 99. I had every toy. I had 2 Eagles. I had one of the ray guns. I had all of it, man. I was a Space 1999 junkie. Dirty fluid is what the dirty fluid is what is this should be a car show. I could do that all day long. Dirty fluid is what is keeping shifting. It's the worn clutch material floating around the fluid that keeps it working. Okay. Because it never slipped. Mine at 300 never slipped. Never once changed. I was good about changing the oil in it, but terrible. But I felt like that truck had another 100 in it. I really do. I think I could have caught you if I didn't box it. Because I had made, I love muscle cars too. They're just made so well. All of them, fastbacks, man, you name it. I don't know if I have a particular favorite, but I had guys down the street were really into muscle cars and they had their own shop. Of course, they were Italians and they were really good at it. Monty Python, who doesn't like? Everybody loves Monty. If you don't like Monty Python, you need like your head examined. Monty Python is just about as good as it gets. Monty Python is just freaking great. Of course, I had a buddy that really turned me on to Monty Python, Jonathan Goodwin from high school. Man, he could recite every line from every show, the movies. Constable Clitoris ate one of those. You know, I have no arms and no legs. You know, the night with no arms and legs. Man, he had memorized all of Monty Python. I should do a Natalie Wood show. I was talking about that with a friend about in college. They used to have the drink special nights because we're talking about, I don't drink anymore really at all. I'm a little teetotaler, but I did my fair share in college. But they literally had a bar, and the discount night was Thursday for this particular bar was on Thursday night, and they literally called it Drink and Drown Natalie Wood Night. That's literally how they advertised it on posters, for the club. Drink and Drown Natalie Wood Night. I'm like, could you get away with that now? I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, nobody really thought about it. Like, isn't that kind of a little insensitive? Drink and Drown Natalie Wood. Of course, what was the movie Natalie Wood was in? The one I really liked. One of the last one she made before she died. Dreamscape. Was it not Dreamscape? That's the one with oh God, I can't remember that actor that's so good that was in The Warriors was in that. But the other one about you'd put the machine on and you could have like a virtual reality deal. And Christopher Walken was in it, who was with Natalie, of course, the night she died with Robert Wagner. And plenty of conspiracy going on there. Don't want to,
Oh, it's in Horrible Taste. Horrible Taste. I think I remember thinking it was in Horrible Taste then. Oh, that's hilarious. Your ex is coming. You kept it to come with a better choice of it, too. That's hilarious. You had a 67 Zodiac Seawolf. I don't know what year Allen's was. I assume it might be a 67 because he got it for Christmas of 67, famously, which people don't want you to know because it doesn't line up with a certain gentleman's story. But he got it for Christmas 67. And it'd probably be hard to know exactly, even if it was Christmas, because there's little things out there that travel through the years you don't know. And the problem is that Arthur Lee Allen's birthday was December 18th. So it was so close to Christmas already. His birthday was, 7 days before Christmas? So how do we know it wasn't a birthday gift? Or, maybe he got screwed. The kids that always had the birthdays near Christmas. Well, Alan's birthday was December 18th, same as Paul Stein, as we know, which is maybe just a synchronicity, as they call it. No, I didn't come up with that. I'm credited for the term graysmithing somehow. I guess Ned and Ross or whoever credited me with that. I don't know if I stole that from some dude or I just said it one night on my own, but I'm officially credited with coming up with the term graysmithing, which is kind of like making your suspect better than they are. I don't know, but they gave me that. No, thanks. I haven't gotten it yet. If you mailed me anything, I keep everything people mail me. I mean, like this comes from my good friend who's not here tonight, Anthony R. Mills Show on YouTube. Check it out. Anthony R. Mills Show sent me a more modern version of a Halloween card with a pumpkin on it. He actually sent me two. So I remember, Anthony, you sent me two. And of course, my good friend Sean Ball sent me the one with the Ace tickets, if you remember that, about Zodiac. That was pretty cool. I'd love to see Tom O'Neill interviewed by Ned on Baby OR. Yeah, that'd be great. I'll suggest that to Ned. Be interesting to see them compare notes. Ned might watch this later. Can someone reach out to Ned, put the idea in his head? I'll do it. I talk to Ned all the time. I'll instant message Ned and give him that idea. That'd be a great show. Ned's always doing some good stuff. And I'll put that out there for him. I will do that for you. So yeah, that's it. Serial Killer Houston. Wanted to be one of the first to jump on it because I'm here. I'm going to go out on a limb and you can, tar and feather me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to say this is a serial killer. And if any more bodies turn up, I'll put it on the community post of this. Your English is not the best. Yeah, hopefully you got the address right. But if you want to email me, feel free anytime. It's just drewbeeson@yahoo.com. I give that out more than my work email because everybody screws it up. Yeah, I love my Tacoma. I love my Tacoma, man. I still miss that truck. I really do. It's just better. I got a Dodge Ram now, which is so much bigger, and I'm still not used to the size of it. The Tacoma sat up high, but it was more narrow, as you know, because you had it. It's just a better all around. But now you want to go buy a new Tacoma, it's going to cost you a fortune, man. It's just going to be, thank you, Patty. You got it right. Thank you, Patty, because I just remembered something. Of course, that's a shot. That's Buffalo Bayou. I'm going to pull that up real quick. That's Buffalo Bayou going through downtown Houston. That's actually Buffalo Bayou. Forgot to put that up. So thank you for all the great artwork, of course, Patty, and the great modding, great audience. Everybody's nice. Corky's going to give a shout out. There's Corky, of course, at the bottom. We are getting closer to Halloween, and we might as well do a Bigfoot because we are going into there's a Bigfoot grown for the work week, and you can't beat Bigfoot. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great week.